try to shift your mentality to one that is not making food an event and go back to finding activities that are the event. So instead of we're all coming together and we're going to make a gingerbread house at grandma's house, instead, all the cousins are going to go ice skating, or we're going to go downtown and see the lights.
Welcome to the Soaring Child Podcast, where parents of children with ADHD learn tips and tricks to help their child soar at home, at school, and in life. We feature interviews with experts, medical professionals, and parents just like you who are learning how to reduce ADHD symptoms using food and other natural strategies. Because children with ADHD deserve to soar just like every other child. I'm Dana Kay, your host. Hello, parents. This is Dana Kay here with another edition of the Soaring Child Podcast. Today, we have a topic that is both timely and close to home for many of you, navigating the holiday season, specifically Thanksgiving and Christmas, while adhering to a gluten and dairy-free diet. The holidays really, they're a time of togetherness, of gratitude, and of course, indulgence in scrumptious meals. But for families like ours who are mindful about removing inflammatory foods like gluten and dairy, this season can sometimes pose some unique challenges. From explaining your child's dietary needs to extended families to finding recipes that align with your nutritional approach, it can really feel sometimes like navigating a culinary maze. And that's why I am thrilled to have a special guest with us today, the creator of the popular YouTube channel, 5 Hungry Travelers. She's an expert at making dietary restrictions work while on the go, and she is here to share her insights and tips on how to make the holiday season enjoyable, nourishing, and stress-free for everyone. So grab that notepad, because this episode is packed with actionable advice that will empower you to turn these holiday challenges into opportunities for growth and connection. My guest, Laura, worked for years in the travel industry before starting her own business as a birth doula. Beautiful. And learning the importance of listening to our amazing bodies when they tell us what they need. So when her oldest child needed to adapt his diet to manage his ADHD symptoms, their whole family learned to trust their bodies and heal themselves through a gluten-free and dairy-free diet. But the love of travel definitely didn't stop. So they developed an approach to take their diet on the road and continue their family adventures around the world. Now she shares her expertise on her YouTube channel, 5 Hungry Travelers, to help families confidently travel with kids with dietary restrictions. So now it's time to welcome Laura Falzon to the Soaring Child. Hi, Laura. Thanks so much.
Hi, Donna. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I am really excited for you to be here today. Now, Laura, I know many of our listeners, including myself, have personal stories that really led us to explore more of this holistic approach to managing ADHD symptoms. And so I'd just love you to share a little bit of an insight with us about what ignited your passion for adopting a gluten and dairy-free diet and also this natural approach for your child with ADHD.
Absolutely. As a mother who knew that my child was behaving sometimes differently than his peers in a way that his teachers had a hard time with, we really, really struggled when he was first getting into a school setting, finding a place where he could be comfortable and be himself, but be happy. He was in more than one school situation where we were asked to leave. And we landed in a school that was very supportive of him. But even then we knew that there was something going on because he wasn't happy. I don't mind a child who is very creative, very expressive, very energetic, but I'm unhappy when my child is unhappy. Mm-hmm. And so we had to look deeper into what we could do to support him and help him get to a place where he felt okay with himself and calm with himself. And we started to get him evaluated for ADHD. We got him an IEP at school, and our doctor, of course, with his diagnosis, gave us a prescription. But before we went and got that prescription filled, we said, let's let's look into diet one more time and see what we may have missed, because we had kind of dabbled since he was very small, like 2, in cutting out gluten here and dairy there. But then still, when we'd eat out, all it seemed like there was for kids to eat was a grilled cheese sandwich or mac and cheese. And so we
yellow
kept
food, as I call it.
Oh, it's like the most bland. It's gluten on dairy, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Every time it's just layers of gluten and dairy.
Yes.
So, so we decided to go all in and do it with intentionality and do it with a little more of a scientific approach. And so, Donna, actually, you helped us out as part of the Thrive Method. Joining the program gave us the step-by-step to make sure we weren't missing something that was helping or that was causing his inflammation, was causing his unhappiness and discomfort and dysregulation. And so we found a couple culprits that we needed to weed out. We did do functional lab testing, and there were things going on that took an entire protocol of supplements to make sure we knocked out some of those baddies that were in there. But we did, and came out the other side of it with a kid who is happy now. He shows leadership in school. I got so many good reports at the start of this school year from teachers that, his school is so supportive and has been with us over the last few years on this journey. He's now in 3rd grade, and they are so proud of him. I love to see it. So thank you, Donna.
Oh, no. Well, thank you. Thank you. You did all the hard work, not me for sure. But thank you for sharing that story. I think a lot of our listeners, we don't have a lot of our families that come into our program on the podcast. And so thank you for sharing that and sharing with families out there that there is hope, that you don't have to live a life where you're strangled by ADHD. There is that opportunity to reduce those symptoms naturally so that your kids can thrive. So thank you for sharing that. Now, let's get to the topic at hand. Now, we've got the holidays coming up, and especially for families starting out, it may seem overwhelming for them. So I think the biggest thing that people feel is like, well, how do you approach this topic of what you need dietary-wise with family members who either don't get it, are not familiar with it, don't even want a bar of it, they don't even have the understanding of what that actually means and why you're doing it.
I first want to encourage you guys that if you have made these choices for your family, just the amount of work involved in that is a lot. And we know it. We're here for you as a community, that you're not alone making these choices. But sometimes as you go talk to family members or friends, it feels even more and more isolating because they look at you like you've got 3 heads.
All in there.
Yeah. And so you owe nobody anything. If you don't want to explain it, you don't have to. And so I recommend taking it in small chunks, in ways that feel safe to you, with people who feel safe to you. So whenever we went to Thanksgiving with my extended family last year, we flew halfway across the country. And I didn't sit down with every last member of the extended family and explain to them why and what we did. But I knew 1 or 2 family members that I could have in my corner, somebody who had some experience with this. I have an uncle who spent a time being vegan as part of his own healing journey for some of his health. I knew he would get it. My mom also traveled to Texas early as part of our travel party, but she got there a couple days before me, and she understands what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I thought, I have 2 people in my corner. That's enough. I don't need to give the full rundown to the entire extended family. And so I highly recommend picking out your 1 or 2 point people who can kind of help you out and just start there.
That's a really, really good advice. You don't owe anything to anyone, and you don't need to tell everyone. But you'd think, I would have naturally thought, oh, yeah, I've got to tell everyone going there. But really, at the end of the day, you don't. And so I love that 1 or 2 point people that can really help you on that journey, navigating that with family members. Now, One of the biggest things families sort of, when starting on this journey, or, when we're talking to them about how we can help their child, they're always scared that their children will miss out on their childhood. We have this conception that childhood means candy and treats and all of that, really. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't, which is unfortunate. But that's the world and the society we live in. So how do you make holidays a celebration when your kids may not be getting the treats that they're used to associating with those certain festivities?
Well, two things. One, it's okay to have something celebratory in your holiday meal that feels traditional to you. We all have some strong emotions around some of these holiday foods. So to make sure my kids didn't miss out on that, before we went to family for Thanksgiving, I asked each of them, what's the one thing? What is the Thanksgiving dinner to you? Like, is it going to be turkey or stuffing or mac and cheese? And I had one kid say it was sweet potatoes with marshmallows, and another kid said it was mashed potatoes. And I thought, okay, I can figure out those two things. And then they get their thing. They got Thanksgiving. And we don't have to worry about the whole spread. If you don't get the one thing on the spread, are you missing Thanksgiving? They got their Thanksgiving experience. But also, there's this big mentality with this diet. And I should say that when we first started out on this diet, there's a 101. You lay the basics. And for a lot of folks, that time happens at home. And I specialize in helping people travel with kids with dietary restrictions, but I don't think you should do that until you've got that base layer laid.
Yes.
And then you can say, okay, what's intermediate and advanced level? And for me, some of that is travel. And I know it feels like you don't want to say no to family holidays. So this is a moment where you may get thrown into that situation a little earlier than you're ready for. So just, gird your loins and try to shift your mentality to one that is not making food an event, and go back to finding activities that are the event. So instead of, we're all coming together and we're going to make a gingerbread house at grandma's house, instead, all the cousins are going to go ice skating, or we're going to go downtown and see the lights. Like, whatever is a holiday thing that's an activity. And to be honest, we should all be teaching this to all of our kids, gluten-free or not.
1,000%.
Food and activity.
Yes. Preach.
And this is so true as we do all kinds of travel, whether it be for holidays or for vacations. We do a lot of cruises. We do a lot of Disney. Everywhere we go, food is held up as an activity, and it shouldn't be. Go have fun and move your bodies, and then go eat something. And maybe that thing is also fun. And maybe that thing is like the one thing you thought you needed for Thanksgiving dinner, but we don't need to knock ourselves out with every last thing being food centric.
Yeah, no, you are 100% right there. And I think that's what's wrong with society these days, which is unfortunate. And that's unfortunately what's driving probably the epidemic of disease, the epidemic of people being overweight. And so we really do need to shift our focus and teach the next generation that it doesn't have to be around food. So I do love that you shared that. The other thing also is, look, kids are going to be kids. And so if candy is what makes it special for them, there are better for you candies. And they don't need to go without. It is very much about just balancing what works. And I love all the tips that you provided. I think they're gold. And I hope that the listeners are writing these down, or they can press pause and rewind and replay. So don't worry, it's not going anywhere. Now, say, for example, someone is taking their family to a big Thanksgiving dinner for the first time since starting their ADHD diet. What is the easiest possible approach to make it a success?
I try to do as much as I've built this groundwork when I'm at home, I try to lean on what I know. So if I know that I can go to Whole Foods and find this, that, and the other that I usually get. Guys, Whole Foods has excellent reorder right on the app, the same exact item in whatever city you're going to, and you can do even curbside pickup. I could have my uncle pick up my order before I even get to town, and I've placed the order and I know what's going to be in his fridge when I get there. Try to stick with the things that you already know in the new place. And then secondarily, do a little research on the location. There's the Find Me Gluten-Free app that we've talked about probably many times on the podcast and within our community. But there's Find Me Gluten-Free. We also find lots of really good resources with simply Googling things. And we do a lot of research on YouTube. It's part of why I love having a YouTube channel, because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. People go to Google first and YouTube second. So go see if there are any videos about the location you're going to on YouTube. But we have found really great, sweet, gluten-free, vegan-friendly bakeries in almost every city we've gone to. I also, whenever I'm going to a new place, will sometimes see if there is a Facebook group for gluten-free folks in that city, because they're locals and they know all the tips and tricks. And so I'm now part of a Dallas, Texas gluten-free group. And then we traveled to California and I became part of a California Facebook group. So I can find where the locals recommend.
These are gold, Laura. I mean, seriously, for anyone on this journey, I'm thinking maybe you need to come into our Facebook group and share all of these nuggets of goodness, because I am sure it will help so many families. Now, okay, so usually when you go to families, like I know a lot of people, they hit the road to drive to their family. So I'm curious, do you carry any emergency food when you travel, or an emergency kit? And what does it contain?
I think even more important than the emergency kit for family dinners specifically is making sure you show up not starving, not like,
good idea.
Where's the food now? Especially if you're showing up a little later in the day. I mean, last year for Thanksgiving, we showed up in the city, landed in the airport close to midnight the day before Thanksgiving. So there was no prep time involved. So we, first things first, had a large breakfast and knew our kids wouldn't be hungry for many hours. Breakfast is one that's generally pretty easy for us. We can do eggs. We can do fruit. We can, these days, everyone loves avocado. With avocado and eggs, I will be full for hours. So if I can go somewhere full breakfast and get my kids really full, then we'll be okay. Even if dinner ends up being just those sweet potatoes they asked for, we can then go have, something else after we leave, and that's okay.
Yes.
But I do keep some things ready to go. One of the things that is kind of a little hack is sometimes bringing some condiments with me. Something like coconut aminos can take something really boring and bland and turn it into something more interesting. So that if my family helps me out and just keeps the veggies simple, then I have what I need to kind of zhuzh it up.
Yeah, that's a really, really good idea. And we do a similar thing when we go to restaurants. So if we're going to Japanese, we'll just take a little bit of a coconut aminos with us instead of the soy sauce. So that is a really great tip in, going to family members as well. Now, what, as we finish up today, there's just been so much goodness in this episode. But what encouraging words do you have for families feeling overwhelmed by the prospect of managing dietary restrictions during the holidays?
Our pressure on ourselves during the holidays to make it perfect and to make it perfect for our kids is so much. So as a parent, I encourage you to, the way you're trying to teach your child to make it about activities, I encourage you to take a second and take a deep breath and remember that it's also about the memories you're making with your child. And know that because you're making these hard choices, because you're taking it easy on those desserts and you brought your own little brownie bite because you can't have the pumpkin pie, but you also have less sugar. So you're going to have a better time when you go ice skating, you go to the tree lighting, and everyone's going to make good memories because of the choices you made. Because remember what it was like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when you had meltdowns and you had to leave early. You're all going to have beautiful, beautiful memories of the holidays because of the hard choices you're making. And it's so, so worth it.
Aww. Laura, what a great way to end up. I mean, that was just beautiful. You're actually making me get tears in my eyes because you're so right. And we build it up and build it up inside ourselves. And, you are going to make those memories. And they are going to be beautiful. And you're doing it for your family and you're doing it for your child. And they are going to be happier. And that's all we want as parents, is for our kids to be happy, to be healthy, and to thrive in their life, whatever that looks like. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your knowledge, your experience with all our listeners. Please tell listeners where they can find and follow you online.
Absolutely. My primary place is on YouTube at 5 Hungry Travelers. That's FIVE, Hungry Travelers. And then also on Instagram, I am also 5 Hungry Travelers, but that's the number 5, Hungry Travelers.
Fantastic. Well, thank you once again for joining me today. Listeners, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of The Soaring Child. I'm Dana Kay, your ADHD health practitioner. Keep on thriving. Thank you for listening to the Soaring Child podcast today. To learn more about how to help your child with ADHD soar using natural strategies, visit our website at adhdthriveinstitute.com and follow us on social media at ADHD Thrive Institute.